actions. Yeah, I go like lights, camera, ready, action. Do you know what I mean?
Sometime in the future, maybe we can get together. Maybe share a drink and talk a while, and reminisce about the days when we were still together. Maybe somewhere further down the line.
Hello everyone! Today's discussion is about speech act and critical discourse analysis. Speech acts theory began as a philosophical investigation of the power of words in language. The two philosophers whose names are associated with speech acts are John Austin and John Searle. Speech act is an action performed in saying something. We perform speech acts when we offer an apology, greetings, request, complaint, invitations, compliment, or refusal. In speech act theory, a speaker is awesome to involve simultaneously and three different speech acts with uttering a sentence. This level of speech acts are called a locutionary acts, an illocutionary acts, and a perlocutionary acts. A locutionary act, that is the act of producing a recognizable grammatical utterance in the language. Second, an illocutionary act, that is the real action which is performed by the utterance. The third is perlocutionary act, that is the effect by utterance in a given context.
Today we'll be covering the topic of speech acts. To start off, a speech act is when somebody makes a statement, asks a question, makes a criticism, or expresses anything at all. They're not only presenting information, but performing some sort of action as well. These speech acts can be broken down into further smaller categories, the first being a propositional act. That means someone is proposing something with their statement or question, that they're suggesting how something is. Pretty simple, right? For example, there's salt on the table. This is my proposition, which states that I think there's salt on the table. Another speech act is that of locution, illocution, and prelocution. The locution is simply what is said and what is meant. For example, is there any salt on the table? Then comes an illocution, which is what is done, the request. The illocutionary act is a social one in which you attempt to persuade your listeners. This is mainly used when we want to find something out or get something, like, please pass me the salt. And lastly, we have the prelocution, which is what is done. We use this to find out what we want to know or to acquire what we want. This is the actual effect. And in the case of our example, what causes us to get the salt passed to us. That's all for today, folks. Next time, we will learn about how these speech acts can be applied to questions and surveys.
Now, let's move to the classification of speech act. Here are source specification of illocutionary acts. Assertive, an illocutionary act which pertains to the realities of the word. The speaker calmly expresses their belief of what is true in a proposition. Assertive may be in the form of statement, explanation, suggestion, swearing, and conclusion.
For example,
Mask helps prevent the spread of COVID-19. Wear your mask correctly. Wash your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds.
Directive, an illocutionary act which signals the receiver to do a certain action. This may be in the form of commands, requests, orders, and invites.
For example,
please wash your hands in the hand washing area.
Commissive, an illocutionary act wherein it allows the speaker to make a certain promises or commitment. Commissive may be in the form of vows, pledges, and promises.
For example,
Mara, it's already late. You need to sleep now.
Nanay, I swear, just one more episode and I will go to sleep.
Expressive, an illocutionary act which presents the speaker's present emotion and actual feelings. This is the best expressed when saying greetings, apologies, thanksgiving, and many others.
For example,
to my nanay and tatay. My words will never be enough to quantify your unconditional love and support. Thank you, and I love you.
Critical discourse analysis, or CDA, is an approach that focuses on the relationship between language, power, and ideology. It not only analyzes the text or conversations, but also examines how language is used to maintain the power, create the dominance, or even resist the social injustice. Critical discourse analysis also provide us with a lens to see how power operates in everyday interactions. For instance, in political conversations, mass media, or legal text, there are hidden elements behind the word used. CDA helps us uncover these power structures by analyzing how this cover is shaped and how ideological influence affect the meanings of conveyed. According to one of the main figures of CDA, Norman Faircox, language is not neutral. Every time we speak or write, we are indirectly reproducing or challenging the existing social structures. For example, difference in language used between those in power and the oppressed can reveal how power operates behind everyday communication. Furthermore, CDA also considers the social and political context of a text or conversation. The language used in the media, for instance, can reflect the ideological bias that reinforce the certain views. For example, the way the media portrays the issues such as immigration or climate change, it is often manipulated to shape public perception. Well, I provide the additional visuals or case studies in this video material. The first video is news broadcast or mass media. This type of the video is talking about the news clips from television or video articles from online media. The purpose from this kind of the video is to show how language is used in the context of news to shape public opinion. For example, compared to news reports covering in the same issues but from different perspectives. And the kind of example video we can coverage of migration or protest that uses certain terms such as reviews or maybe illegal immigrant. Let's see the video.
There are already a number of legal challenges to Texas's strict new immigration law. This comes as officials in the border state say they're seeing a significant increase in illegal crossings. Jared Hill has the latest.
In Eagle Pass, Texas, thousands of migrants draped in blankets huddle outside waiting to be processed. On Monday alone, U.S. Border Patrol says it handled nearly 11,000 people. The uptick at the border as Governor Greg Abbott signed a new crackdown.
The goal of Senate Bill 4 is to stop the tidal wave of illegal entry into Texas.
The law, making it a state crime to cross the border illegally, is raising worries of racial profiling.
How do you know just by looking at somebody that they entered, without papers? The only way you really know is if you're standing at the border and watching them cross.
And legal challenges are already ramping up. The ACLU sued Tuesday, arguing the law violates the U.S. Constitution. The White House, leaving legal action up to the DOJ, is suggesting Texas overstepped.
The federal court, not individual state, is in charge of determining how and when to remove non-citizens for violating immigration laws.
And the issue of immigration not lost on the 2024 campaign trail.
They're destroying the blood of our country. That's what they're doing.
GOP frontrunner, former President Donald Trump in Iowa Tuesday doubled down on rhetoric the White House says parroted Hitler. The Nazi leader criticized the mixing of races in Mein Kampf, arguing, quote, the originally creative race died out from blood poisoning. Trump said he never read Hitler's manifesto.
The Texas law isn't set to go into effect until March.
The second one is political discourse. This type of the video talking about the clips of political debates, speech, or political campaigns, with the purpose of showing how politicians use language to maintain the power or influence the audiences. For instance, comparing speech by two politicians discussing with the same policy. And this kind of the example of video is Donald Trump's speech on the immigration or Greta Thunberg's speech on climate change, which highlight the different ideological and emotions.
We are telling you to act as if you loved your children above all else. Because distant net zero emission targets will mean absolutely nothing if we just continue. Our house is still on fire. Your inaction is fueling the flames by the hour.
Well, thank you very much, Klaus. Very special. We're committed to conserving the majesty of God's creation and the natural beauty of our world. Today, I'm pleased to announce the United States will join 1 Trillion Trees initiative being launched here at the World Economic Forum. 1 trillion trees. And in doing so, we will continue to show strong leadership in restoring, growing, and better managing our trees and our forests. This is not a time for pessimism. This is a time for optimism.
We're not telling you to offset your emissions by just paying someone else to plant trees in places like Africa, while at the same time forests like the Amazon are being slaughtered at an infinitely higher rate. Planting trees is good, of course, but it's nowhere near enough of what is needed, and it cannot replace real mitigation and rewilding nature.
To embrace the possibilities of tomorrow, we must reject the perennial prophets of doom and their predictions of the apocalypse.
We demand at this year's World Economic Forum, participants from all companies, banks, institutions, and governments immediately halt all investments in fossil fuel exploration and extraction, immediately end all fossil fuel subsidies, and immediately and completely divest from fossil fuels. We don't want these things done by 2050, 2030, or even 2021. We want this done now.
The third one is talking about the documentary films. This type of the video clips from the documentaries focus on social or political issues, with the purpose of showing the use of language in more depth discourse, such as in academic discussion or activism. And the example from this video is a documentary on social injustice, like 13, with address racism in the United States.
Last summer's Black Lives Matter protests made some real change in Colorado and around the country. Our Brian Wendland talked to a University of Denver researcher looking at why those protests moved the needle when other movements have not.
My research kind of centers on consumer behavior and just the psychology of why we do what we do.
Gia Nardini was planning to study how the marriage equality movement succeeded when things changed this summer.
And then the Black Lives Matter movement was playing out before our eyes.
Her team pivoted and began to look at these social justice protests in real time. As Black Lives Matter grew in all 50 states and policy changes started passing through city and state governments, the team dug into what made this movement so successful.
And it's when we can kind of change the norm and make this the norm, social justice, that we begin to see policy follow suit.
As an assistant professor of marketing, Nardini took tools from her field and applied them to the protests. Things like consumer psychology, decision-making, and social norms.
Some of which include really nurturing grassroots leaders and connecting people to the movement, and within that movement, connecting those people to each other.
Another takeaway for successful movements: start small.
Not to expect change overnight, not to go for policy change up front, but instead kind of build up to that policy change.
Nardini hopes to inspire researchers in other fields to focus on this kind of research.
To recognize the connections and the ability to make a difference, even in a discipline that may not seem directly related.
And to help future activists understand what it takes to change society.
I hope, it's helpful for activists. I hope it's helpful for scholars. And I hope it inspires people.
For Next, I'm Brian Wendland.
The fourth one is social campaign videos. This type of video campaign the videos from non-governmental organization or NGOs or social campaigns in mass media with the purpose to identify how language and imagery are used to support social change or advocate for particular issues. The example of the video, we can take something like campaigns about the gender equality, climate change before, or anti-racism, and also about talking happen in nowadays, like coronavirus.
First, we must increase vaccinations among the unvaccinated with new vaccination requirements. Of the nearly 80 million eligible Americans who have not gotten vaccinated, many said they were waiting for approval from the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA. Well, last month, the FDA granted that approval. So, the time for waiting is over. This summer, we made progress through the combination of vaccine requirements and incentives, as well as the FDA approval. 4 million more people got their first shot in August than they did in July. But we need to do more. This is not about freedom or personal choice. It's about protecting yourself and those around you, the people you work with, the people you care about, the people you love. My job as president is to protect all Americans.
The fifth video is commercial advertising. The type of this video is advertisement from major companies, especially those regarding specific social or cultural aspect. And the purpose is to analyze how language and visuals in advertising are used to reproduce values of capitalism, consumerism, or gender norms. Well, I take in the other case, this talking about the other advertisement that talking about the privacy of using in social media. Let's see the video.
Laws and regulations were tightened, aiming to protect individual privacy and ensure transparency. The scandal served as a stark reminder of the need for ethical conduct in the pursuit of technological advancement. As the dust settled, Cambridge Analytica scandal lingered in the public memory as a cautionary tale. It's a story not of one company's misdeeds, but of a society grappling with the implications of living in a data-driven world. It reminds us that with great power comes great responsibility, and in our digital age, the quest for influence and understanding must always be balanced with respect for individual rights and the collective good.
The last video is talking about the everyday conversation or social media content. This type of the video from short videos from the social media platforms such as maybe we can find out in the TikTok, YouTube, or Instagram. It's showing everyday conversation, what happened in our daily life. And the purpose is to demonstrate how language is used in everyday social interaction that reflects the power structure or ideologies. And one of the examples is talking about the gender, cultural stereotypes, or viral social issues on social media. Well, the example from this case is talking about the gender inequality, or cultural stereotypes, especially in the work environment.
Gentlemen, good morning. Please make your way to the lift. This way, please. Go ahead. Ladies, hi. Stairs, please. Yep, please go ahead. Sir, the lift? Hi, excuse me. Hi. Can you please take the stairs? Thank you. That'd be great. You go ahead. This way, please. And you go ahead, please. This way. Yeah, that'd be great. Please, this way. Ma'am, please take the stairs. Please continue this way. Excuse me. New stairs. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, please go ahead. You guys can carry on. Thank you. Hey, hi. Good weekend? Great. This way, please.
Analysis of these 6 videos, we will understand that critical discourse analysis is not just about analyzing the word literally, but also about the examining how language is used as a tool to maintain our power, shape the ideologies, and also influence social views. We will explore how these discourse structures are linked to power and domination, and how we can identify bias and injustice through the language being used. So, through critical discourse analysis, we not only learn about language, but also how language becomes a tool of power and ideology in society. CDA gives us the ability to understand and critique the social structures that are often hidden behind everyday communication.